Welcome into Buffalo Bills Weekly, where we take you behind the curtain at One Bills Drive. He's Chris Brown, I'm Maddy Glab. The Bills beat one of the best offenses in Week 9 in the Kansas City Chiefs. Both sides of the ball had games to remember. Offensively, the run game set things in motion for the passing game to ball out. 28 total points by the offense. They found some success in the play-action game as well. Defensively, the rush and coverage were stellar. I go back to the fourth quarter where the Chiefs had a chance to tie it. Defensive end Joey Bosa pressures quarterback Patrick Mahomes, and here comes cornerback Maxwell Harrison to grab an interception.
Yeah, I mean, and that was like an arm punt because of the pressure from Bosa. Mahomes had to throw off his back foot. It looked like he was throwing a hand grenade. I mean, Max Harrison could have had a picnic under that ball before he jumped up to catch it for the interception, but that's the exact thing that Coach McDermott talks about all the time, marrying the pass rush with the coverage.
In terms of looking back on the game against the Chiefs, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, career low completion percentage, 44%. Josh Allen has a career high, 88.5%. What was the most encouraging element from that game?
I think there's a lot of things you can look at defensively because it was their most complete defensive performance of the season, but the thing that encouraged me the most were the young players on the back end in the secondary. Cole Bishop had a coming out party with 4 of the team's 5 pass breakups, including a critical one at the end in the end zone on the Hail Mary. And then you look at the speed and athleticism on the back end that's been added with the insertion of Max Hairston and Jordan Hancock into the lineup. And look, they're not going to be perfect. They're young players. They're inexperienced. So they're going to get fooled a time or two out there through the course of the second half of the season here. But I think the positives far outweigh the negatives.
Patrick Mahomes has seen a lot as an NFL quarterback. You could see in that game Mahomes was confused by some things he was seeing on the back end. What did Sean McDermott do and Bobby Babich in terms of coverages where it was a mix of man and zone at times?
Yeah, and actually I don't even think it was the coverage that had him crossed up as much as the pass rush games up front there. Okay. Yes, they were in nickel and dime the whole game, but I think what you had was a new pass rush scheme that the Bills really hadn't put on tape before. They had interior pass rushers essentially running picks, like a basketball pick for Rousseau and Bosa to loop under. The offensive line could not get that straight for Kansas City, and Mahomes, you could clearly tell, was impacted by it. He was a little skittish in a way that I've really never seen him before against the Bills.
To successfully do that against one of the best teams in the NFL, I think says a lot about this pass rush going forward, even though they have lots of injuries. The most encouraging element from the Chiefs game for me was the fact that the passing offense flourished. Josh Allen has only gone over 270 passing yards now twice. This includes the Kansas City game. It was good to see him look in control, in rhythm with his receivers. Buffalo's rushing offense, best in the NFL. However, you have to beat teams in more than one way. And it was nice to see that going into the second half of the season. Sean McDermott announced defensively that Michael Hoyt is now out for the season with a torn Achilles injury at the defensive end position. Hoyt had a productive 2 games as a Bill. 2 sacks, a forced fumble. He brought a lot of energy and was a wizard in terms of the way he understood the game. Who can fill that void?
Well, it's going to take multiple players. I don't think there's any one player that's going to fill that void, chiefly because the players that are further down on the depth chart are more inexperienced. I mean, he was calling a lot of their pass rush games too. They're going to have to find a veteran to do that. I think Javon Solomon's a guy that's got to step up. He has played more and more with each passing week. And I think with Hoyt down, Solomon becomes one of the answers there. We also saw Dorian Williams used as a pass rusher last week. His speed and athleticism is an asset. I could see him being used more going forward.
Defensive coordinator Bobby Babich spoke about Javon Solomon, said, I'm seeing him become more comfortable and confident in our system. Earlier in the offseason, Solomon told me the light bulb is coming on for me. I'm playing a lot more confidently. So we'll see if he can live up to that, getting more snaps in Michael Hoyt's absence. We got to take a break, but when we return, the best press conference clips are coming up next, as well as Mitch Morse's Morse Code later on in the show.
Again, we feel very confident in the guys that we have in that room, and again, just continuing to find ways to utilize their strengths to the best of our abilities. and we're always exploring, new ways to do that and finding new concepts out there and trying to rep them in practice, and then trusting our guys out in the game to go do it. And, we've talked about the everybody eats mindset for a long time now. And I think, again, this last game, just being able to find that and guys having different opportunities, but, sometimes there's not a lot. There's only one ball that can go around, and we got a lot of very capable guys with the ball in their hands. So, again, just finding ways to continue to get the ball to different receivers.
We haven't beat Buffalo since the first year Mike has been here. So we look at this as like we got to win every time we play Buffalo. That's kind of how we look at it. I don't think you can look at it any other way. And for us as a team, collectively this year, we got nothing to lose. We got to go all in with this.
Yeah, I think just understanding our game plan and understanding how we need to execute. 11 hats to the football is really, the answer to any of those questions, right? How you stop anybody? Well, be physical, 11 hats to run into the football, being able to execute, execute the game plan. And, we were able to do that last week. We want to continue to build off that momentum and, understanding where everybody's supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, the communication, the checks, all that goes into stopping any great player. It's playing really good team defense.
No, man, it's the same mentality. Same mindset, you know what I'm saying? Like, even last time we played, it was a pretty close game to the end of the fourth quarter, and it's just we seen what we needed to fix, and hope we come back this week and do what needs to be done and come out with the win.
We can't control any of that. Logical question, Mike, but at the end of the day, we've got to get ourselves ready to go, and our level of play, as I've said before, is what matters most. And what impacts that the most is how we prepare during the week and how we handle ourselves. And if we're worried about that, then we're not going to be able to play to the level we need to play to win the game. Very competitive team, and we have a ton of respect for their game, so we've got to get ourselves ready to go.
They've beaten us because they've scored more points and done the right football things longer than we have in those games that we lost. I think that that's the measure of a good football team, is being able to win. Particularly there's been a couple one-score games.
Welcome into this week's edition of Morse Code, where Bills legend Mitch Morse helps break down a player's perspective on the game. Mitch, thanks for being on with us. We have a lot to talk about. A big win against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Big win for the fellas. It was fun to watch as a spectator. It was a dynamic game, and I'm looking forward to breaking it down with you, Maddy. Thanks for having me on again.
Dynamic is the word that you used, and I want to start right there. The Bills started out on offense with a nice mix of running the football and passing the football. If you look at their numbers, 35 rushing attempts to 26 passing attempts. How did leaning on the run help open things up for Josh Allen and the crew?
That is one of the greatest stat lines I have heard, especially as an offensive lineman. Let's just call a spade a spade. One of those things that I thought was fun was that when you run the ball 35 times, you force the defense's hand. You have to respect the run first. And what that does is sets up a lot of play action passes. I would be interested to see the breakdown this season of the amount of passes that are from under center. And when you do that, you open that up, and then, of course, you sprinkle in a few dropbacks when you have to. You still have Khalil Shakir to have that screen game, keeping people honest. And I think that's what the run game does the most, is keeping people honest. It was so much fun to see, and I know these guys are having a good time doing it, and execution also helps a ton. It's just one of those really exceptionally unique things that you rarely see in the NFL now. And these guys, especially when you get into that, you get this groove, this kind of flow state that I think these guys would attest to that they were in. It's a special thing, man. It really is.
Well, you spoke about how the offensive lineman deserves some credit and how seeing 35 rushing attempts makes you happy as an offensive lineman. One thing that I found interesting, though, is, okay, they go off for 141 rushing yards against the Chiefs, which was a top 10 defense going into this game, but they have that success on the ground going 11 personnel in 66% of the snaps and ran the ball a lot out of 11. What does that say about the type of protections that the offensive line has to do to be able to hold up without multiple tight ends and fullbacks on the field at the same time?
Well, I think if you look at it in the two different folds, right? If you look in the run game, that's just a testament to the physicality that these guys brought. What jumped out to me on the screen was that this was a very good, of course, defensive front, a defensive scheme run by Spags that had held the last two opponents to 80 yards combined on the ground. And it comes down to just physical ass football. And these dudes brought it from play 1 to play 50 or 60, whatever. And that wears on a defense, no matter how good they are. And Spags' defense is one of the best, if not the best. And then, yes, it does cause a lot of, you could still run a lot of play action out of 11 personnel, right?
Right.
Especially when you set the run up in 11 personnel, a lot of under center. But like I had said earlier, one of my favorite parts of this new schematic thing that the Bills have is this quick screen game to clear. Like it keeps the rush sane, even though you know that the Bills aren't running a lot of shotgun snaps, and it's so hard to explain what that means to an offensive line to have these opportunities.
Yeah, they deserve the credit. One last question. Josh Allen sets a franchise record for completion percentage with 88.5%. He was nuclear in that game. 23 of 26 for 273 yards. He looked like he was in such a good rhythm. You've played alongside Allen for so many games when you were a part of the Buffalo Bills. When did you know that Josh Allen was just going to have a dang day?
Yeah, there's a two-parter. I think one is when you would see him throw up as hard as he possibly could in that trash game. If his eyeballs looked like they were going to pop out of his socket, you knew the guy was going to be in this cool flow state. And then kind of speaking on that flow state, it's like guys talk about it. It's so hard to kind of put into words, but when a dude hits cruise control, and you can see it in his eyes, right? It's not this like overly amped up dude, and it's not a very passive guy. It's someone that's, that just they have the ultimate trust in what's going on. They have the ultimate trust in themselves. They're executing, and it's a snowball effect. It's this beautiful snowball effect. And so it's kind of sounds weirdly sensual, but when you look into his eyes, Maddy, you could tell, and it's hard to explain, but there's this beautiful look. When you see that, he goes in the huddle, he bangs off a few runs, passes, or he scrambles. It's just, it was a beautiful flow state. And it was in his eyes.
It was in Josh Allen's eyes. Well, he talked about the snowball effect. I hope that snowball effect goes all the way to Miami, where the Bills are going to play this week. Thanks for helping us break down an epic win against the Kansas City Chiefs, a big one for Buffalo as they're at the halfway point in the season. I can't believe that we're already here, Mitch.
That's wild. It's wild. The boys are coming down to Miami. It's going to be a little crispy 85 degrees at kickoff. So a little bit of wind, 5 to 10 mile per hour wind. Okay. So the boys will get a little reprieve, but it'll be different.
Wow, we need you to do weather updates in our next segment. 5 to 10 mile per hour winds. It sounds good
west.
from you.
East to west. That's going to be great.
Thank you,
Maddy. I appreciate you as always.
Appreciate it. All right, stay tuned because coming up next, we've got new stadium updates coming your way. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to Buffalo Bills Weekly. I'm Chris Brown, and I'm joined now by Bills Vice President of Stadium Development, John Polka. John, thanks for the time. Wanted to kind of cover some ground here on the plans for public transportation. What is the stage of the planning right now in terms of public transportation and getting fans to the game that way?
Yep, we're at concept design right now, so we finished up some initial plans and renderings with the design team. Just had our first public meeting, get some comments from the public on what we're planning. We'll take that feedback, and now we'll have the design team go into formalized documents for construction.
And then with respect to a location, has that been decided upon in terms of where the buses are going to be unloading, loading, and circulating on game day?
Yep, so from the inception of the program, we kind of have been figuring it out on the existing campus. So with the new stadium development, we really wanted to give a prime location for this. So the transportation hub will actually be located right across from Family Circle, front door to the stadium. So prime location for both pickup and drop off, easy access for riders to get to and from the transportation hub.
And then what kind of volume are we expecting in terms of number of buses that are going to be circulating on a game day?
So pre-game, buses will drop fans off and then circulate back to make another trip, pick up more riders, and drop them off. So pre-game, there will be a kind of a constant flow of buses. Post-game, we have staging for 10 buses at the Transportation Hub,
Okay.
which people then come right out of the game, load onto the bus, and they'll head out.
That's awesome. And then maybe explain why this has become a growing priority for how things are going to run when we get to game days with the new stadium.
Yeah, the program with NFTA, the Game Day Express, started in 2022, had just under 300 riders per game. So it was a program that just launched. People didn't know about it. Today, we're up to over 1,000 riders
Wow.
per game between pregame drop-off and post-game pickup. So 1,000 riders a day. We wanted to make this more of a permanent fixture, formalize the process. So we'll now have a transportation hub that's very visible on campus and gives fans the opportunity they're looking for.
And with that increase in ridership here with the old stadium, I'm assuming you're expecting that number might even go higher with the new stadium and some of the conveniences you're providing with this new hub.
Yeah, I think fans are realizing that the Game Day Express is a great way to get to the game, right? So if you're planning on coming and not tailgating or meeting up with somebody or maybe a visitor from out of town, Game Day Express is a great way to get to and from the stadium without getting caught up in traffic.
John, thanks for the time and the information.
You're welcome.
That's Bills Vice President of Stadium Development, John Polka, joining us. We'll take a break, but don't go anywhere, because coming up next, we'll get you ready for Bills Dolphins in game preview here on Buffalo Bills Weekly.
Welcome back to Buffalo Bills Weekly. We're at the halfway point of the season as Week 10 approaches. The Bills have a game in Miami against the Dolphins. Miami has had a tough first half to the season, going 2-7. They parted ways with longtime general manager Chris Greer after losing to the Ravens by 22 points. The Dolphins made one move at the trade deadline, trading away defensive end Jalen Phillips to Philadelphia for a third-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft.
This is a Dolphins team that is going to be running for the bus. So if you can jump on this team early, and look, I know it's a long way to get to Week 18, but this is a death march. I mean, this team is going nowhere fast, and with the trade, the firing of the GM, I think it's dragged down the morale of the players even more. So the key for Buffalo here is to jump on this team early. You know, you get out to a 7, 10, 14-0 lead, even 14-3. These guys are going to pack it in fast.
When you look at the way that Miami's played in 9 games through the season, it's been inconsistent. Offensively and defensively, they're not working together. Effort has been an issue. They're allowing the highest completion percentage at 74% and have the most turnovers in the NFL at 15. That says that people aren't communicating right and things are continuously going wrong. 2 bright spots for Miami are 2 playmakers in wide receiver Jalen Waddle and running back Devon Achane. They offer explosion and they're speedy. In terms of taking those 2 down, what coverages are favorable to stopping that speed?
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily coverage. I think the plan that has worked very well for the Bills over the years is just take away the first read for Tua. We know that he likes to get that ball out quick to his first option, and he has to throw with anticipation because he doesn't throw with a lot of velocity. The Bills have had tons of success over the years taking that away, forcing him to pat the ball, and then he's not a second reaction player. We know he's not a great scrambler. He's not good at improvising. Take away the first read, and you're halfway there. Now, that goes without saying, but I don't think you can ignore Devon Achane. To be successful in that element with Tua, you've got to make them one-dimensional. That means focusing on Achane first, neutralizing him, and then that pass coverage plan can take effect.
Buffalo's pass rush had a monster game against the Chiefs in Week 9. They're chomping at the bit to do it again. Miami's quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, fastest time to throw in the league at 2.69 seconds. How does the pass rush plan change when you're going against a quarterback like that?
Well, the good news is you can be pretty aggressive there. You know, a lot of these other mobile quarterbacks that the Bills face, you have to kind of cage rush them and not leave open lanes for them to escape. Even if Tua tries to exploit one of those, he's usually not quick or fast enough to outrun a pass rushing defensive end. So I think that allows Bosa and Rousseau to be more aggressive with their rush plan. And look, he's thrown 11 interceptions, I think, in 10 career games against the Bills. So he's going to probably give you one, even if you get pressure on him. You don't even necessarily need to get him on the ground. Just hurry up his process and he'll give you one.
Buffalo's passing offense found success against Kansas City's third-ranked pass defense, going off for 273 passing yards. Against Miami, they're top 10 against the pass, although they're allowing a 114 passer rating to quarterback. So it's a little bit lopsided there. Buffalo went off with their tight ends against Kansas City, 149 receiving yards. They should be able to do the same against Miami because Miami's allowed 36 points to tight ends.
Right, and they have an older and slower secondary than that of Kansas City, and we've seen the Bills victimize the Dolphins defense at the second level, right behind those linebackers. Play action will be important again here. Suck the linebackers up, exploit the space behind them with Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid. Both of them had big games against them in the first meeting this season back in week 3. Both of them had touchdown receptions in that game as well. I think they can exploit that again. If you can get Joshua Palmer back in the lineup from injury too, that would go a long way to really stretching Miami's defense.
We saw what happened when Dalton Kincaid was on the field. You add Joshua Palmer into the mix, and the Bills' offense just gets harder to defend. We want to thank you for tuning into Buffalo Bills Weekly. With a win, the Bills would get their 8th straight against Miami Dolphins. He's Chris Brown. I'm Maddy Glab. We'll see you next week.